Hello, my name is Elaine Tintoni. I am the lead online math instructor at ICC, and in this video I'm going to give you a little introduction to the graphing calculator, the TI-83 or the TI-84. First, let's talk about the power button. You have to be able to turn the thing on and off. So down here in the lower left you can see this button is labeled on. If I press this button, the calculator will turn on, and you can see the little blinking cursor there. And now to turn it off, notice that the second function of this on button is the off. To access a second function, which on my calculator is in yellow, you press the yellow second button. So press second on, and then that will turn the calculator off. Now I want to show you how to set the contrast on your calculator. You know how sometimes when you look at these liquid crystal display devices, sometimes the screen can appear too dark for you or too light for you. So occasionally you're going to want to change the contrast. And the way to do that is to hold down the second button with one finger, and then with another finger press the up arrow repeatedly to make the calculator darker, or press the down arrow repeatedly to make the calculator lighter. So I'll show you what it looks like when it gets super dark. You can make it so dark that you practically can't read what's on the screen. I really can't see that right now. On the other hand, you can make the screen very light. It just depends on your lighting situation and the angle that you have your calculator at. So that's how to adjust the contrast. Remember, you're going to hold down the second key and then repeatedly hit up arrow to make it darker, or repeatedly hit down arrow to make it lighter. Now one of these days it's bound to happen that you accidentally hit a button and you get into a menu that you can't get out of. Let's suppose you accidentally hit this Y equals button and you get into this screen where you can enter a function to be graphed. Well, if you hit the clear button, that doesn't really do anything. So you can't get out of this menu by pressing clear. So the way to get out of this menu is to use the quit function. Now again, notice that all of the second functions on my calculator are in yellow, and your calculator might be a different color, but you should see the word quit above the mode button. So if you will hit your second button and then the mode button, that will quit you out of that menu and get you back to the home screen. And that always works. No matter what menu you accidentally get into, if you press second quit, you can always get back to the home screen. Now let's perform a few calculations on our calculator. So I'm going to press the clear button and get myself a clear screen here. And the first calculation I want to do with you is 15 minus 7 divided by 5. Now always remember that the calculator knows order of operations. So the calculator is going to perform the operations in the correct algebraic order. Now remember, the order of operations is PEMDAS, or parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide in order from left to right, add and subtract in order from left to right. So on this expression, the division should be done first, and then we should say 15 minus whatever this quotient is. So let's enter this in our calculator. You're going to go 15 minus 7 divided by 5. And then to see the answer, you'll press enter. And so that comes up 13.6. Now for this next calculation, we'll use parentheses. You remember from algebra that parentheses have to be evaluated first. So if we press parentheses 15 minus 7 and then close the parentheses and divide by 5, we'll get a different answer. So the parentheses change the order of operation. Now let's look at this expression. So if we type parentheses 2 plus 3, then close the parentheses, and then times 9, we'll get 45. But the calculator recognizes that parentheses can act as a multiplication symbol. So honestly, if I just put parentheses 2 plus 3, close parentheses, and then put the 9, the calculator understands that that is multiplication. So when I press enter, I get the same answer. Now let me show you how to get an exponent. On the TI calculators, the exponent button looks like a caret symbol. So if we simply say 2 to the power 5 and then press enter, we'll get our answer. So the caret symbol makes the next number act like an exponent. Now let me show you the negative key. Now if we want to add negative 20 plus 16, you might be tempted at first to use this minus sign because the minus sign does look like the negative sign, but a calculator doesn't understand it that way. So all calculators have their own negative key that is separate from the minus key. And on the TI calculator, the negative key is on the bottom row next to the enter button, and it's in parentheses. So to enter negative 20 plus 16, we'll need to press negative 20 and then plus 16. And you can see that we got negative 4. Now, if your negative comes in the middle of the expression, or at least not at the front, you don't really need the parentheses that you'll almost always see in print. You could just put here 38 plus negative 5, and the calculator would understand that the negative belongs to the 5, and when we press enter we get the correct answer, which is 33. You also could just remember from algebra that plus a negative number is the same as saying minus, so you could say 38 minus 5 instead of plus negative 5, and that will also give you the same answer. Now, the exponent of 2 is used so commonly that on most calculators it gets its own button. And on the TI-83 and 84, the square button is over here on the left column, up and to the left from the 7 key. So the way to use this button is just to put your base in first and then press the square key. So 5 squared, and then press enter, and you'll get your answer. Of course, we also have the option of using just the regular old caret button. So we could say 5 to the power 2, and of course that functions the same way. Now let's look at a square root. Here we have square root of 36. The square root function on the calculator is the second of the square button. So to get the square root of a number, we just get the radical on the screen first. So we'll say second square root, and notice that the calculator opens a pair of parentheses for us. Now everything that's in the parentheses is going to be considered under the radical. So we can say square root of 36. And now I want you to notice that I'm not even going to bother to close those parentheses, because if you press enter, then the calculator understands that it needs to close any open parentheses for you. So I'm just going to leave those parentheses open and go ahead and press enter, and of course it gives me the result of 6. Now if I wanted to do more after that, I would need to close the parentheses myself. So for example, if I wanted to calculate square root of 36 plus 1, where you see the 1 is not under the radical, in this case I would need to say square root of 36, and then I would need to close the parentheses so the calculator knows that only the 36 is to be considered under the radical. And then I could put my plus 1 and then press enter, and of course the result is 7. And let's also just remember from algebra that the 1/2 power is the same as the square root. So if you forget to put your radical in first, you can alternatively put power 1/2. Notice that the 1/2 now needs to be in parentheses, because if it weren't, the calculator would only understand that the 1 is the power, and then it would divide the result by 2, and that's not what we want. We want 1/2 to be the power. So we can come over here and say 36 to the power, parentheses, 1/2. You could also use a decimal value of 0.5. And of course you see that the 1/2 power of 36 is 6. Now I want to show you a function of this calculator that is really, really handy, and it turns out a lot of students don't know about it, and they waste a lot of time putting in keystrokes that are unnecessary. So I really want you to pay attention and make sure you catch on to how to use this previous answer function. So suppose that you have done a calculation like this one. So it's not a difficult calculation, but the answer has lots of decimal places, and I've already entered it here, and let me press enter. And so the answer is 8.4035. Now suppose I need to do another calculation that uses that answer. I could certainly write this number down and punch it in again, but there's no need to do that. So what I can do here is say square root of 273. Of course, I need to close my parentheses, and now I want to divide by that previous answer. So I'm going to hit divide, but instead of putting in that old number again, I'm going to use the second function of the negative key. You see the A and S down here stands for answer. And if I go second A and S, the calculator is going to divide square root of 273 by the last answer that it calculated, which is the 8.4035. So now when I press enter, there it is. And so this function can save you a ton of typing and a ton of time. So make sure and remember you've got this previous answer function at your disposal. And the next thing I want to show you is how to use the mode button on the calculator. So the calculator has several modes. Let's just press the mode button here and I'll show you. This screen is pretty much analogous to the settings screen in an app that you might have on your phone. This is where all the settings for the calculator are. And the setting at the very top of the screen is normal or scientific or engineering mode. Now you want to keep this in normal mode almost all of the time. In our statistics class, there will never be a time when you will need either of these other two modes. So make sure that this is set to normal. But I'm going to put it in scientific mode for just a minute and show you what that looks like. And now let me do second quit to get out of that screen. Okay, with the calculator in scientific mode, if I do 7 times 8, for example, the answer, of course, is 56, but the calculator does not display it as 56 that we would recognize. It displays it as 5.6 times 10 to the first power. So I'm telling you this because if somebody else has been using your calculator, you might see weird-looking answers like this, and you need to know how to get it back to normal. So again, it's mode, and you want to choose the normal mode here. Make sure and press enter so that your choice is saved, and then you can clear or you can second quit to get out of that. Now let me go back and show you one more thing in the mode screen. The second line tells you how many decimal places will be displayed. The float option tells the calculator to display as many decimal places as are necessary, or you can choose the number of decimal places that will be displayed. So if you always want 2 decimal places, you can just change from floating mode to 2. Make sure and press enter, and then you can clear out of that. And now when we do 7 times 8, you'll see it's going to tell me 56.00. You see it's going to give me 2 decimal places for every calculation that I do. So if your calculator is displaying extra decimal places, you'll just want to go into the mode screen and change that back to float. And when you change it to float, of course, it works the way you want it to from then on. The next thing we're going to look at is how to convert a decimal answer to a fraction. Occasionally in statistics, you will want your answer in fraction form. For example, when we get to the chapter on probability, sometimes, not always, but sometimes you'll want your answer in the form of a fraction. So let me show you how to do that. We're going to add here 3/8 plus 2/5. Now you know that the fraction bar in a fraction is nothing more than the division operation. So we can just say 3/8 plus 2/5, enter, and you can see that the result is 0.775. But suppose that I need this in fraction form. It's very easy to do, but it's not obvious. So that's why I'm showing you. All you need to do is press the math button, which is the third button in the first column. And the first choice there is convert to fraction. That arrow means convert to. So the first choice here is convert to a fraction. So we press enter, and you can see that it is offering to take the answer and convert it to a fraction. So if I press enter to execute that command, I can see that the result of that addition is 31/40. You can also go back to decimal form if you want to, so just math. This time we want to convert to decimal, so down arrow and then press enter, and then press enter to get your decimal back. Okay, so to convert to a fraction, it's real easy. All it is to get to a fraction is just math, enter, enter, and there's your fraction. Now I want to show you how to enter an expression that you've typed in but you haven't pressed enter yet. Notice here I have 105 plus 229 plus 417 plus 72 plus 16, but I have not yet pressed enter, so I don't have an answer. In other words, the expression is still active. I could add on to it if I want to, or I can edit what I've already typed, and that's what I want to show you how to do. Let's say that we want to change this expression to this one, and the only difference between expression A and expression B is that the 417 has been changed to a 497. So I need to just change this number, but I don't want to have to type the whole thing again. Well, because I have not yet pressed enter, all I need to do is press the left arrow button until my cursor is over the number that I need to change, and then I can just type the new number. And you can see there it's changed from 417 to 497, and now if I wanted to, I could press enter. Or let's say that we've got expression B here, and we would like to change that to expression C. So this time we would like to change the 497 to just a 97. In other words, we need to delete the 4. Well, we have this delete key here, DEL, and so all you need to do is left arrow until your cursor is over the number that you want to change. And now that I have my cursor over the 4, I can just press the delete key, and there's the new expression. Or let's say that we want to change that expression to the one you see in part D. So instead of having an extra number, I've left out a number. You can tell that if I were to press 8 here, it wouldn't insert an 8. It would just type an 8 over my 9, and then I would have to retype everything that comes after the cursor. So I don't want to do that. If you need to insert a number, what you want is this INS, which of course is short for insert. So I'm going to hit second, insert, and notice how my cursor changes from that solid cursor to just the underscore cursor. And now I can put an 8 in there without typing over what was already there. Of course, if you want out of insert mode, you can just go second, insert again, and it changes it back to the strike over kind of cursor. So there you go. You can fix any typos with the delete key and the insert key. Now I want to show you how to fix a typo in an expression for which you have already pressed enter. So an expression that's no longer active. Okay, here you can see that I have entered this expression 7 times 13 plus 4 all divided by 5. And that's what I have here, 7 times this sum, and that product is going to be divided by 5. Okay, now let me go ahead and press enter to get an answer. And suppose I realize after I press enter that I didn't want a plus, I wanted a minus. Well, instead of typing the whole thing again, all you have to do is use this entry function. So you see the second function of the enter button is what we want. So press second, enter, and you get your expression back, and now it is editable. So all I need to do is left arrow back to the plus sign and just change it to a minus. And now I can press enter. And now let's say that we want to change that last expression from 13 minus 4 to 13 plus 24. So again, I will hit second enter, and I will just left arrow. I will change the minus to a plus, and now I need to change the 4 to a 24. So now I need the insert function. I'll hit second, insert, and put my 2 in, and now I have the expression I want. and I can press enter. And now on this one, let's change our previous expression from 13 plus 24 to 13 plus 9. So this time I have an extra digit. I will press the left arrow until I get to the 24, and now I want to change 24 to 9. So I'll delete one of those characters, and now I'll change that one to a 9, and we are good to go. So we press enter, and there's our result. Now there is a lot more to this calculator. It will do a ton of stuff. It will do graphing of all kinds, and it will do statistical functions of all kinds, and there are lots of engineering applications that we won't even touch. This is a very powerful calculator, and we've just barely scratched the surface, but I hope I've given you enough information to make you not afraid of the calculator. I want you to know how to use it and to feel comfortable using it, and I want you to know how to do everything the easiest way possible. So that's why I wanted to do this quick video and give you an introduction to some of the user interface functions, and now you're off to a good start, and when we get to the statistical functions, you'll be all good to go. Good luck.